Oh hey there, having a good new year? I have a story to tell you. For me, it was a story of dedication, perseverance, and most certainly, stealth. So sit back, relax, as I steal the entirety of Cyrodiil. First up, we're picking Imperial because that personality stat is going to help us in the long term selling the stuff we steal. Ah yes, Chad Mix Steal. Perfect. Now there's nothing to actually steal down here, so we're just going to skip to certain parts. You know, I've always wondered what happens if you resurrect Reno. Huh, would you look at that? Reno, there's rats. Reno, oh my god, useless. For our birth sign, we're obviously picking Thief to counter the Imperial's crappy agility stat. Moving on to our class, for all intents and purposes, it's the normal Thief class, except we've swapped Marksman for Blade and Speed for Personality. Now let's talk about the run. The only rule is I can only make money off the things I steal, and that's pretty much it. I won't be utilising exploits other than one of them, and in my opinion it's not really an exploit to begin with, so yeah, let's get started. First things first, we're going to have to join the Thieves Guild to gain access to the fences which will allow us to sell our stolen goods. To do this, we just have to steal absolutely anything in plain sight. Technically, we don't need to go to jail, but screw it. Yeah, blah blah, arrest me. Oh no, not our heavy armour stat. Now all we have to do is wait for the guild's representative to contact us so we can join. Took you long enough. All that's left is to complete a challenge the guild gives you and we're good to go. Once we've spoken to Armand, essentially all we need to do is steal the diary of Armand's selectors and we can join. Now we could ask the beggars like we're supposed to, or we can just follow Methadrill here to the exact location, just grab it before she does and we're set. Sorry Methadrill, my diary.
Congratulations.
And here we are, our first location, Bruma. Why choose Bruma first? Well, the game kind of ushers you towards doing Bruma first, since the first fence is located here, but also because Bruma is a pretty wealthy city. Oh, I should also mention, I'll only be showing footage from the most notable locations throughout the cities we visit, otherwise the video would be about 28 hours long. How about we talk about Bruma? To be honest, I tend to forget Bruma exists for whatever reason. Yeah, this is where the Super Oblivion gate opens, but other than that, what is there here really? The Countess is a weeb, there's a woman that gets super drunk and sprints around at night, there's Mythic Dawn agents here, a vampire hunter that turns out to be a vampire, and this is where one of the more memorable Dark Brotherhood quests happens, but other than that, what is there really in Bruma? Come on. Not saying I dislike Bruma, or it's a bad city, I just forget about it. As for the things we steal, you're going to see me stealing a wide variety of things, most of them plates and food, and let me tell you, food is really annoying because there's loads of it and it barely sells for anything, but because it's got value I have to steal it, which brings me to my next point. I'm only stealing things that have value, so no, that planter you're looking at that has zero value I'm not stealing because it's a waste of time. I'm only stealing things that have value, and even then there's billions of that item. At the end of this run, I stole something like 15,000 items. Oh, and by the way, I'm also going to be showing you 4 of the most profitable buildings in the cities we visit. So let's start that now. In first place, we have Bruma Mages Guild with 2,015 gold. In second place, we have Bruma Castle with 2,005 gold. In third place, we have Bruma Chapel with 950 gold. And finally, in fourth place, we have Hammer and Tongs with 917 gold. In total, we made 9,495 gold in Bruma. And that's Bruma all done. I say we move on. I'm thinking Cheydinhal. Cheydinhal originally was one of my favourite cities in Oblivion. I remember coming here as a kid when I first played Oblivion and I was like, wow, this place is awesome. But without sounding obnoxious, I just really enjoyed the fantasy aesthetics of it. As I was making this video though, my opinions of the place actually changed. It has the outward appearance of wealth and luxury, however everyone in this town is poor as hell. Not that being poor is a bad thing, but I feel like this town is just trying to pretty up what is essentially a turd. What's really odd is when I was walking around stealing all the items, it actually gave me a more intimate view into the lives of all the citizens in Cyrodiil in every single city. And it's really odd because all I'm doing is essentially walking around stealing all their stuff. But this let me see into their lives, if that makes sense. Cheydinhal, for example, there's corruption, deception, There's an orc gang roaming the streets, and the literal Dark Brotherhood just chilling there who pay the count to just ignore what they're doing. Also, the buildings here are said to be stylised by the Dark Elf immigrants who arrived there, but nothing here feels especially Morrowindy, if you know what I'm saying. If you've played Morrowind, you know what I'm saying. There's also a rumour that the Count murdered his wife, but I don't necessarily think that's true. I'm not even going to talk about the Count's son, who's a massive fool. What I'm getting at here is, go to your favourite place in Oblivion, your favourite city, have a look around, and you'll probably discover something that you didn't realise was there, and your opinion of it might actually change. For example, you'll be surprised how many people own a Mythic Dawn commentaries book. Seriously, go have a look around, you'll be surprised. And it makes sense considering the Mythic Dawn have a lot of members, but I was honestly surprised. And another thing, you'll be surprised how many people are Skingrad addicts. Like, I was walking around and just finding it. It's like one of the best things to sell because it's worth so much cash. And occasionally, you'll even discover something creepy. Like, there was a few times I went into the basement of a building and the music changed to something it's not meant to be. And it creeped me out. Like, I actually got goosebumps going into there. And it's odd because I've been playing this game pretty much since its release. I've been playing this game since I was 10 years old. And I thought I knew this game so intimately, but obviously there's still more things to discover that I didn't know exist. And I'm obviously not talking about the corruption aspect of, let's say, Cheydinhal, because everybody knows Cheydinhal's corrupted. If you've played this game long enough, you know Cheydinhal's corrupted. But like, it's just the little things that are hidden around corners that want you to find them. They're the things that are interesting. I am aware of the fact I'm talking about more of my personal experiences with this run, rather than Cheydinhal itself, but it just applies everywhere. At least we can all agree, however, that Cheydinhal is home to the most memorable questline in Oblivion, the Dark Brotherhood. With all that being said, let's get to the scores. In first place we have Cheydinhal Mages Guild with 1,532 gold. In second place we have Cheydinhal Castle with 1,086 gold. In third place we have Riverview with 1,038 gold. And finally, in fourth place, we have Mucknar's Books with 880 gold. In total, we stole about 9,468 gold worth of stuff. Cheydinhal was fun, but we can move on. I'm thinking Chorrol. Chorrol is probably the most chill city out of all of them. It's nice, it's quiet, mostly lacking any weird or strange background events. One thing I can say is, unlike Cheydinhal, which has an illusion of wealth, Chorrol actually has it. Yeah, Chorrol has a poor district, but at least it's not trying to fool you. Talk to any of the NPCs in the area and they too will share this opinion. Talking about weirdness, I guess you could say Hackdirt is located nearby, but that's hardly a part of Chorrol, and it's about the weirdest thing in the county. What I assume to be the Fighters Guild headquarters is also located here alongside a very, very wealthy chapter of the Mages Guild. The Countess of Chorrol was a nice enough woman, and so are the locals. If there's one place I could live in Cyrodiil and in Tamriel, it's probably Chorrol, since it appears to be at least safe. Is it my favourite city in Oblivion? That's a difficult question to answer. On one hand, I'm inclined to say maybe yes. On the other hand, there are some cities that just have a certain feel to them, that just have more appeal to them. Chorrol is nice and everything, but it's also kind of boring and it's safe. It's too safe. Give me something to break up the monotony of peaceful everyday life. That's what I get out of Chorrol. Yeah, it has one Dark Brotherhood questline, and also the Fighters Guild main questline is located here, but that's literally about it, and you're evoking them events, if that makes sense. It's not happening currently as I'm recording this, or currently in Chorrol. It's you who's making them events happen. So if the player isn't actually taking part in them events, nothing is happening, so it's just boring. That might sound like I'm contradicting myself when I say I would like to live here out of any other place in Cyrodiil or even Tamriel, but you've got to understand, there is so much weird and strange stuff happening all across Tamriel and Cyrodiil that this is probably the most chill place out of all of them. The most eventful thing happening in town when you arrive is that the Countess has had a painting of her husband stolen, and that's literally it. Yes, I also know that a farmer has had his farm taken over by goblins, and there's some other minor things happening in town, but that's literally it. There's nothing else happening. And that's what makes me love Chorrol. It's just so mundane. And as I said before, that isn't a bad thing. It appears safe, which in the grand scheme of things is about all you could ask for. With all that being said, let's get to the scores. And in first place we have Chorrol Mages Guild with 4,647 gold. In second place we have Chorrol Castle with 2,062 gold. In third place we have Fire and Steel with 977 gold. And in fourth place we have Chorrol Fighters Guild with 930 gold. That brings us to a grand total of 13,523 gold. Which is way more than I was expecting from quiet little Chorrol. Now after this we're going to be moving on to Skingrad, but before we do that we're going to do something to make things easier for ourselves. Veteran Oblivion players will understand what that trapdoor behind me means. Essentially I'm doing the Kyatar trapdoor trick. I think that's how it's pronounced, Kyatar. What's going on here is we're going to be doing some save scumming. Basically on the other side of that trapdoor is a chest, an end of dungeon chest at that, and that gives you a piece of randomly levelled loot. If you don't like the loot you get, you can just reload the save and then go back in there. What we're after is some chameleon gear. Bearing in mind I'm not guaranteed to get the loot I want first try, so this can take quite a while. You do not want to know how long it took me to get the chameleon cuirass. Next up we've just got to do the quest for Meridia and we're good to go. Oh, by the way, I also picked up Chill Rend because I think it's a really cool weapon. Oh, and I've done her quest.
Well done. Those creatures were an affront to all life.
With the Ring of Khajiit, we get an extra 30% chameleon. Now we have 40% chameleon, that's going to make our lives a lot more easier. And finally, here we are, Skingrad. There's lots I could say about Skingrad. It's kind of a creepy city. The Count's a vampire, there's a haunted house located here, and this is where you unalive an entire party for the Dark Brotherhood. I also find it interesting that the guards wear heavy armour gauntlets and greaves compared to the other city's guards, perhaps a testament to the fact they're paid more, or maybe they're well looked after. Without sounding obnoxious, Skingrad has a really nice European Renaissance vibe to it, which I really enjoy. It's also where my favourite player home can be purchased. The city is known for its wine, and apparently tomatoes and cheeses, with the Surreal Brothers and Tamika respectively making their wines here. There are a couple of things that annoy me about Skingrad though. For starters, Salmo the baker doesn't sell sweet rolls and bread. A guard even points you to him and tells you to try his sweet rolls. And he even has a shop sign above the entrance to his house. Perhaps he was cut by the devs due to time constraints or whatever. Also, Tamika and the Surreal Brothers don't store large quantities or even medium quantities of wine in their houses. Like, are you telling me the two biggest producers of wine in the entirety of Tamriel don't store their wines? Where are they keeping the wines to age? When I was looting their houses, I was honestly a little bit disappointed. Moving on, the most entertaining thing in town, if you can call it that, is Glarfir, the resident paranoid maniac, and can I say this word on YouTube? A dark elf dead people lover? Sure, we'll go with that. I honestly find it hard to believe that the people don't question the fact they've never seen their count. Maybe they're just content enough to not question it, but that's probably for the best considering he's a vampire. In some ways, Skingrad kinda reminds me of a mini Imperial City. Some of the architecture, at least in my opinion, looks similar perhaps by design, and I know the Imperial City, at least the white gold tower that is, was built by the aliens, but still I kinda get the same feeling I do there. Skingrad also to me has kind of like this pompous feel to it, kind of snobby if you will. One of the residents here even threatens you if you talk to him because he views you as like inferior scum compared to him. I can't remember his name from the top of my head, but people talk about Nazim a lot in Skyrim, but nobody talks about this guy in Skingrad, considering he's probably the most hateable character in the game. Anyway, with all that being said, let's get to the scores. In first place we have Skingrad Mages Guild with 1,919 gold. In second place we have Skingrad Castle with 1,761 gold. In third place we have All Things Alchemical with 1,660 gold. And in fourth place we have Hammer and Tongs with 1,253 gold. Altogether Skingrad got us 9,871 gold. As a side note, you can actually find the original All Things Alchemical by the Imperial City, except it's burned down. As to why it's burned down, use your imagination. Well, that's Skingrad done. Now we can move on. Next up is Kvatch, and well, as you can see, and as you probably already know, there's not much to loot. It's basically completely destroyed. There is some stuff to steal, but there's not a lot. This is the part where I would normally give you my personal take on Kvatch. or what I like about it, what I dislike about it, but honestly there's not much to say. So here's the total of what I stole from Kvatch. We stole an absolutely amazing total of 128 gold from here. I honestly have no idea what I expected. After all, they're just what's left of an entire town that was destroyed by the Daedra. So yeah, if anything, I feel a little bad stealing from them like this. But anyway, let's move on to Anvil. Compared to a lot of other cities, Anvil's quite poor, and you can kind of see why. It's a portside town, and most of the ships that come here are either pirates or minor trading vessels. That being said, there's a lot going on in Anvil. It's home to the most haunted house in existence. The chapel was massacred by some Aurorans. There's an all-female gang luring men and then robbing them. There's also the most haunted ship in existence located in a harbour. Not to mention the Dark Brotherhood's betrayer keeps his mother's head on a plate underneath the lighthouse here. All the while the Grey Fox is just chilling here because the Countess, who's his wife by the way, has completely forgotten him because of the Grey Cow's curse. So yeah, Anvil is a very dangerous place. I wouldn't want to live here. How anybody lives here is beyond me. The nicest place in this entire city is the castle, but that's a given considering that's where the Countess lives. It's gonna be nice. Also, I'm damn certain this little area here is the only place like it in the entirety of the game. I've never seen any castle have this exterior ever. This little patio where you can have a tea party. It's actually kind of crazy. With all that being said, let's get to the scores. In first place we have Anvil Mages Guild with 2,666 gold. In second place we have Anvil Castle with 2,641 gold. In third place we have Anvil Chapel with 999 gold. And last but not least we have Anvil Fighters Guild with 654 gold. In total we made 9,646 gold in Anvil. To be honest, I didn't have high hopes for Anvil to begin with, but I'm glad we achieved at least 9 grand. That puts us somewhere around the 60,000 mark. Next up, Bravil. Bravil is probably the dirtiest and poorest town in Cyrodiil, but looks can be deceiving. There's plenty of stuff to steal here, especially from the castle, which I'm more than happy to do because the Count is a prick. Bravil has some interesting going-ons in town. For example, this is where the Night Mother rests and her listener also resides here. The Count's son is a skooma addict. Speaking of which, there's a skooma den just existing out in the open. Oh, and there's some guy who got kidnapped due to his gambling debts. If there's a crime-ridden city in Cyrodiil, it's here. I wouldn't be surprised if the skooma den is allowed to exist purely because the Count's son needs his fix. Also, the door to the Shivering Isles is located nearby, just chilling there. Other than what I mentioned though, there's not much happening in Bravil. Frankly, Bravil is pretty boring. It's like the Empire turns a blind eye to this place. The Count, by the way, used to be a champion, but I assume he fell from grace at some point, and is now a little bit of an asshole. Interestingly, he's the only Count not marked as essential, which is really funny. In saying that, imagine if he died and his son took over. Imagine Bravil, but worse. Since there's not much else to talk about in regards to Bravil, let me give you some tips if you want to do something similar to what I'm doing. Books will make you a lot of money, so make sure you grab them. If you don't really care about stealing everything of value like I did, you can ignore the food and the rare weapon replicas since they weigh the same as their real counterparts but only cost 1 gold per piece. In fact, they might be the worst item in terms of gold to weight ratio. Pumpkins are also terrible in this regard, weighing 5 points of encumbrance but only selling for 2 gold. In terms of gold, Mages Guilds and Fighters Guilds are always good for making gold. Fighters Guilds tend to be in the lower end of the spectrum in terms of gold production, but weapons are always good sources of income. Mages Guilds on the other hand can easily net you 2,000 gold or more in most cases. If you're doing a casual run of Oblivion and you're a thief, go to every Mages Guild, you'll make easily 14,000 gold without even choosing Mercantile as a skill. If you do want to do this type of run, be prepared because this whole run took me about 28 or so hours to complete. Bearing in mind, however, that I was doing this as fast as possible, not leisurely. So if you were to do it yourself just because you wanted to, you could easily double that amount of time just by taking your time. If you were to ask me what my favourite thing to steal is, it's probably alembics and other alchemical equipment. They just sell for so much gold. I get excited whenever I see alchemical equipment. But anyway, let's get to the scores. In first place we have Bravil Castle with 3,463 gold. In second place we have Bravil Mages Guild with 1,916 gold. In third place we have the Skooma Den with 1,876 gold. And in fourth place we have Bravil Fighters Guild with 1,100 gold. In total, we stole about 9,076 gold's worth of items from Bravil. With Bravil done, we can now move on to the second to last location, Leyawiin. Leyawiin is an interesting town. Its population is made up mostly of Khajiit and Argonians. Argonians I understand considering its proximity to Blackmarsh, but why Khajiit would want to live here is beyond me. Its exterior surroundings are mostly swampy, and more friendly towards the natives of Blackmarsh than the desert dwelling cats. As for happenings in Leyawiin, there's a female orc who's proclaimed herself a knight, there's an Argonian who tells terrible jokes, and the Count's wife possibly kidnaps Argonians to torture them for her own sick pleasure. Yes, that last part is true. Oh, and also a murderous mercenary group have set up shop in this town, and interestingly you can't steal anything in there for whatever reason. This is also where you pick up the staff of Everscamp. I did a run involving me beating the game with said staff, and you can watch that video by clicking this pop up here. My favourite quest involving Leyawiin is probably when Sanguine gives you a spell to turn an entire dinner party naked, but that's about it. Leyawiin itself is a surprisingly wealthy town with quite a small poor district. As the last town we visit before the Imperial City, this was pretty good overall. With all that said, let's get to the scores. In first place we have Leyawiin Fighters Guild with 2,353 gold. In second place we have Leyawiin Mages Guild with 2,274 gold. In third place we have Southern Books with 2,000 gold. And finally we have Leyawiin Castle with 1,612 gold. Bringing us to a grand total of 10,078 gold. So yeah, more wealthy than you think. And with that, I think it's time we move on to our final location, the Imperial City. I think most people remember their first time in the Imperial City. I remember being in awe at this grand pearlescent place. I can only imagine what this city would have been like if not for the constraints of time and resources the developers had while making Oblivion. And even after all these years, I still look at this place and think to myself, wow. True, it's not as populated as I would imagine it to be. I think of bustling streets, Romanesque food vendors on the street. Imagine Rome in its prime, and that's how I imagine the Imperial City. And I'm not saying Rome and the Empire are exactly the same or that they even have a one-to-one similarity, but there are definitely similarities there in terms of their culture. The Imperial City is the largest in Tamriel with some contenders such as Blacklight and Almalexia, but overall it's considered the largest. This place also took the longest time out of all the places we visited to steal everything. I don't have the amount of time it took, but believe me when I say it took way longer than I would have liked. So many houses are hidden throughout it. You'll also notice that unlike other places we visited, we're going to every shop that's available, and that's just because there are no mages guilds or fighters guilds located here, so it just made sense to do it this way. Now, the Imperial City might look safe from the outside, but in my opinion this place is pretty dangerous. There's a group of grave robbers operating in the city, there's an entire sewer network that's crawling with goblins and all manner of dangerous creatures, not to mention the sewers has a secret outpost for the Mythic Dawn. Also, strangely enough, a group of pirates is allowed to dock at the harbour with no issue. Like, aren't they pirates? Shouldn't you arrest them? Also, like the other places we visited, the Imperial City has a skooma problem. Like, the owner of the feed bag, for example, has a skooma addiction. Go ahead, look upstairs at the feed bag, you'll be surprised. And it seems like the Imperial Guard are way more focused on dealing with the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood, and don't get me wrong, those are genuine issues, but the Imperial Guard seem way more focused on dealing with those issues than they are all the other things that are happening around the city. And so, from my point of view, what's happening is you just have this bubble of crime forming where the Imperial Guard aren't putting their attention to. Like me, for example, stealing everything. But I think it's time we finally get to the last of our scores, don't you? In first place we have the Mystic Emporium with 1,990 gold. In second place we have Red Diamond Jewellery with 1,818 gold. In third place we have the Gilded Carafe with 1,481 gold. And finally in fourth place we have Edgar's Discount Spells with 913 gold. Altogether the entirety of the Imperial City netted us 22,518 gold. This took me so long to make this video, roughly 28 hours or so to make it. I never want to do something like this again because it just took so long. Like, after a while, even doing the Imperial City just got boring because you were just walking around looting everything. And this is my honest opinion. Like, I'm not going to lie to you. Should you be doing this? No, you shouldn't. There are easier ways to make money. Do something else. Do the Dorian glitch, for example. Do anything. You can do the Dorian glitch and make the same amount of money I did in about 5 minutes. And how much money did I make, you ask? Doing all the towns, all the settlements, and all, like, everything, it gave me roughly 152,000 gold. And now, I think I deserve a rest. Before I end the video though, I would like to say I'm uploading twice a month, and that is going to be my schedule. I'm going to try and maybe do more, but I might not. But anyway, this has been Geth. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.